Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another session of Her Own Way. And today we'll be discussing the ways of a trainer, consultant, researcher, lifelong learner, a beautiful personality at heart. And at the same time, she's an academician. I've seen how her students respect her and give her the place that she deserves. She has a diverse experience working in pharmaceutical, banking sector, engineering, and you name it, and she has been there. She has worked in Pakistan, Australia. She has worked with University of South Wales, USAID, SGS, and the list goes on and on and on. And I don't know why she keeps so low key. So she is Juveria Baig. Assalamu alaikum, Juveria. Kaisi hain aap?
Walaikum assalam, Bisma. I am quite well. Thank you very much for inviting me to this amazing session.
Thank you for accepting it. I know how difficult it is nowadays, work ke saath saath. But बताइए कैसी हैं आप and how is everything else?
I'm well. I just came back from a client meeting in a very large textile export, organization. And the only topic under discussion was how everyone's getting affected by this current recession, the hike in prices. And हमने उनसे एक महीना पहले एक मीटिंग की थी जो कि बहुत ही डेवलपमेंट फोकस थी. And today she was like, okay, everything's on hold, everything's on hold, everything's on hold. And right now they were like, okay, so like convince me that what we are talking about is a must-have or a should-have. So if you can convince me that it's in a must-have wala area, then let's go ahead with it. So so that is what is generally going on at this stage. I think everyone's challenged locally, globally, with whatever's going on. So just realities of life.
Great. Juveria, हमारी campaign है Her Own Way. So tell me about your way. How do you go about things?
So since you've talked to me about, you floated this idea about having this conversation, I thought long and hard about everything, about being a woman in the kind of culture that we are in, my own journey, I guess. And I've discussed this with people that जिनके opinions को मैं बहुत respect करती हूँ. So I try to crowdsource some of this information. And I think एक चीज underlying है इस सारी चीजों के अंदर, इस सारी conversation के अंदर, which is, I believe, confidence. I think it comes back to confidence. एक तो ये बात होती है ना कि we talk about empowerment, so इसके अंदर एक बहुत important बात आ जाती है around power, the dynamics of power. And power itself is a tricky concept, because I think every war that has ever happened has been in order to gain some advantage and some power over resources, over people, over politics, over something. So the concept of power just kind of like skews it, but I try to think of it in ways which were more, I guess, which would build more common ground. And I think empowerment is about getting your space, fighting for it, not necessarily fighting, but just being assertive about you deserving your space. And I think uske andar ek bahut important factor aa jata hai about how confident you are in that belief that you deserve that space, and how much is that going to propel you in standing up for it and demanding it, and working around in capturing that space. And so it just led me to think about confidence as a function within our society and our women and myself also. I started with myself and I started to project around me. And I felt that I have been very privileged in this way, that I always had a voice growing up in my family, for being the only daughter with two sons, sandwiched between two sons. that father-daughter relationship, which is so precious. So that always gave me a voice. And I believe that I took a lot of that confidence for granted. And it wasn't until I stepped into the real world, because again, my childhood was in a very protected environment, which was steel town. My father worked in the steel mills, and we lived in this very idyllic place, which is far away from the main city. There was one school that everybody went to. There was one bakery that everybody bought their bread from. There was one Saturday market that everybody brought their vegetables from. Everybody had lived a very similar life, a very safe and very protected life. So I didn't know what anything meant at all till I stepped out into the real city, the main city. And that is when I started to realize, okay, I've been living in a cocoon, and a lot of the things that I took for granted, that I could go out with my friends, and I could go cycling if I wanted to. I could, if I wanted to do a sleepover, I could just tell my parents and just walk out and walk to her door. All of that stuff was a huge privilege and not the norm. And not just for women, but for men as well. बहुत सारी चीजें इसमें enter कर जाती हैं. And so that's led me to think that there's so many things pulling you away from what perhaps it is that you should be doing, or what you believe is your right. But it is those people who are assertive, people who who have the confidence in and that belief in themselves that they deserve it, that are going to step up and ask for it. And I think that is a very important element in the whole empowerment paradigm.
Absolutely, Juveria. Thank you so much for that. Actually, my next question was this thing that, I have been, conducting these interviews, and I have been reading about the females, their intros, and I was surprised and mesmerized how much they have done. But all of them keep a low key, including you. I mean, and I don't know why. What is it? Is it the confidence? Is it like we feel like that we have not done enough? I just don't get it. What is your take on that?
I don't know. I mean, in my so I guess it's, I don't know if I can generalize it to be part of a woman's nature, but I think I believe that women are more emotionally intelligent. I think there's enough evidence to prove that as well. And any emotionally intelligent behavior is going to tell you, and any leadership position will also tell you that emotionally intelligent leaders or enablers work behind the scenes, and they work in developing things for others. And perhaps that is one reason, and because women generally are enablers, they set the stage, they understand the big game, the long game. It's not it's not just immediate gratification. They understand, okay, we're doing this, eventually we're going to look at certain results. Abhi hota hai, dekhenge, aage chal ke pata chalega. All of that approach, I think perhaps would lead to that. I can only speak for myself, I guess. I believe that in my line of work, mainly as an academician, my impact and my my non-low-key approach is in the class, where I believe that I dominate. And
Okay.
so मैं हमेशा ये कहती हूँ कि in your class, as a teacher, as a trainer, you're king, right? So you have the absolute authority on how you want to take any learner through any kind of process that you feel is the best fit in that particular environment. So I because a lot of my time is spent inside of a learning environment, I believe that I am quite vocal and forceful if needed. I'm quite out there. I put myself on the line. So whatever. So in that way, I think that I'm not that low key, and I think my students will agree. But I guess in other things, because perhaps I haven't had the need to, and it's also not part of my personality. So I don't go out to many HR forums or leadership forums, because I think my work itself is enough to fulfill me.
Great, great. I really like the definition of which you gave, the emotional intelligence, how you have related to this question. I think we are giving so much as females. It's in our nature to be a giver, that at times we don't know when to take it. I do agree with what you say, that I know you're a teacher, and you're a teacher who has an impact on her students, and I've seen that myself. Juveria, यही चीज मैं आपसे पूछना चाह रही हूँ कि actually who are you? Because a person who's a trainer, coach, mentor, consultant, an academician, that person has to be somebody, because you are building the nation in a way that you are a teacher, and you're building a nation. And I really want to understand you. Who are you? Who is Juveria?
That's going to put me in an existential crisis. That's such a hard question to answer.
I know.
So I don't know if I know fully yet what I am. But my track record shows that I am someone who, like I just said, who creates processes and systems around people. So again, dipping back to my childhood, my mother suffered from a very debilitating mental health issues, which were because हमारे इतनी कम research है mental health के ऊपर, especially psychological illnesses के ऊपर, कि हमें उसका diagnosis बहुत late मिला. And once we got the diagnosis, we were all adults, and so we had to go through those motions. And again, in the absence of a fully functional mother, because when she would go down in her dark paths, it was just then me, fending for 3 men in the household. And so at a very early age, I suppose I had to make sure that everyone was okay, that there was food, and there was that the bags were packed to go to school, and all of that stuff. So, and I don't think that I had to force myself to do that. I think that that was something that I had seen my mother do as I was growing up, and when she was fully functional. And it was just second nature. I never questioned it. I never felt that this is why do I have to do it. I've always found meaning in it. I've always found joy in something that is just a well-oiled machine. It's and that I have a role to play in it, and I'm enabling it. I take a lot of pleasure in it.
Yeah, and I can vouch for that. Yeah.
And so I think I am that. I try and grease the wheels. I try and make sure that everything's functional. And I like to oversee things. I like to, as much as I can, that things are in place, that everyone's okay. Not to the point of servitude, I guess. Okay, are you all right? Are you all right? But generally, just having systems that are in place, and whatever process improvement is needed, वो घर के अंदर से लेके domestic responsibilities से लेके to my professional responsibilities as well. Whenever there's a crisis or a problem at hand, I always go back to the drawing board. Okay, what needs fixing? How are we going to do it?
Yeah.
So big picture, little picture, immediate gains, long-term gains, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that plays to my strengths. And I suppose that's what I am. I'm like the behind the scenes doer.
Yeah, because I remember, I can vouch this for your personality. I remember I asked you to have a session on one of my previous organization, and I was dropping you off, and you asked me how are things that, I got married at that time. You were asking me, and I said few things, and I said something which now I feel was quite judgmental. And you said, no, Bisma, right now you need to win friends. You need to make friends. Yeah. And instantly I realized, oh, she understood, the kind of phase I was going through, and you did not hesitate hesitate from giving me an advice. So this comes really natural to you. I didn't came for the consultancy or the mentoring thing, but you knew it, and I think, and you gave it to me, and it's really, Juveria, this might not, you might not understand that, but that really helped me actually. That really helped me to एकदम से sudden mind shift हुआ ना मेरा, उससे मुझे समझ में आया कि नहीं, ये किसी दिन मैं जवेरिया के साथ सेशन करूंगी तो I will definitely ask her about her personality and this thing, where is it coming from? Because कभी मैं भी अपने स्टूडेंट्स को या अपने younger ones को देखती हूँ, and I feel hesitant to give the advice. You thought about it, you felt it, and you didn't hesitate, and you gave it to me. So थोड़ा सा मुझे हुआ भी, that was a personal thing. But then when I took it, I realized, okay. And I saw that happening when people don't, win friends and don't make friends. And they feel like, oh, they're the only one, we are on that phase. और इससे मुझे ये realize हुआ कि at times we females, we don't ask for help. We are so good at giving that we don't even ask for it. That हमें पता भी नहीं होता कि हमें help चाहिए. है ना, ऐसा है कि नहीं?
So I'll relate a story to you, which was a big aha moment in my life. So I went to Australia when I decided that I didn't want to be in the career that I was at that stage. I graduated from Textile Institute of Pakistan. I was working within the textile industry in business development and export marketing. And it just seemed as if it was not the right fit for me. I was not bad at my job at all. But it just felt as if I wanted to, whenever in any kind of position I've been, I've always found people to talk to and acha tum log ye kar lo, yes, this is the perhaps what you should be doing. Just working around and for people. And I didn't understand, I didn't know that HR was a career at that stage. I never knew of it. And so when I was doing the USAID project and usme, because it was a training project and I saw the impact of training, and I was just, if you took the time and effort to sit down with people and talk to them about their development needs, I saw amazing things happen. And I was like, okay, how do you do this full time? Like, what is the career path for this? And I found out, okay, 𝐤𝐞𝐫𝐢𝐞𝐫 and all of that stuff. And I got when I was in Australia, because I went for a complete career switch there. And मैं culture shock से ही नहीं निकल पा रही थी वहाँ पे, इससे पहले इससे ज़्यादा कि मैं career switch के बारे में सोचती, मैं दूसरी चीज़ें existential crisis में वहाँ पे पड़ गई थी. And I had a teacher. She's just absolutely amazing. And I was at the end of my career and my study career there. And I was just so lost that one day I wrote an email to her and I said to her, I think I need help. I had said some very emotional things in class one day, and I I wrote to her to say, I'm sorry that I was wearing my heart on my sleeves at that time. It might have been a little off-putting perhaps for you, but I think I need help in trying to understand what am I supposed to do with my life. My mother had recently passed away as well, so that was just adding on to the whole thing. And she said, okay, you and I need to sit down and talk. And I never officially approached her as a mentor, but she took me under her wing at that time. And once I graduated, I started to work in the automobile sector in Sydney. She called me one day and she said, I want to have coffee with you. And then she said, listen, you might not agree to this, but I see something in you that perhaps I don't think that you see. And I think that you have a way with people. And you should be working with people in the development side of people. And she invited me to join her teaching team. She said, give it a go, just try it out, because that will give you access to young minds, people who are, because something about being lost. And there are so many people who are lost that end up in my classroom, and I don't know how to help them all, but I think that I can do that through you. So teach join my teaching class and see if it works, if it presses any buttons for you. And I did, and it was just amazing. It was such a path correction for me. It was exactly what I was looking for. And I never considered myself to be a teacher, somebody who was working with young people. And I'm so grateful to her. It was already such a stretch for me that Noah, her name is, Noah was from Israel. She was Jewish. all of these were huge things for me to earlier. I would have considered even making friends with somebody like that, and for her to mentor me and for me to be working side by side with her and just finding this absolute common ground amongst us. It was phenomenal, and I saw that how many doors she opened for how many people. Regardless, obviously she had a lot of stereotypes to overcome as well. This was the time when they caught Osama bin Laden in Pakistan, right? This is 2010, 2011. So obviously for anybody to hobnob and to, involve themselves so much with somebody from Pakistan was a huge leap of faith on her part as well. And we both took that leap. And to the day, we're very good friends. I seek her counsel. She's just absolutely amazing. It's amazing to have good mentors, and especially women mentors, because they just get it. Right? They understand.
I have been asking this question to almost every female who has, come over on this episode, on this session. The need for female mentors, the formal or informal female clubs to mentor females, to guide them, or to, even have these vent out sessions. And you actually are a living example who's sharing what is the importance of such mentoring, such mentor club. So this brings me to your organization and to you also, Juveria. I've just, I've heard your story. You said you have lived in a cocoon, in a protective environment. And despite, when you say these things, I know what are the challenges of even living in a protective environment. It is not, everything is not being handed to you on a plate, though might seem like, but there are challenges. But when you stepped into the real world, you must have gone through a lot of challenges. The journey might have been overwhelming. You tell me about those things, because, as females now in this position, you seem like a lady who has, accomplished a lot to a person, who is just starting his or her career. And they might want to know, that this has not always been the case. You might not have been that empowered or strong lady who, who can speak out for herself and people around her. So tell me about those challenges which you have come across.
So I think the first minefield that I had to work around was understanding the men and women dynamics of the workplace. That was something that I was completely not familiar with. I was studying at the Textile Institute of Pakistan at that time. And I've always worked, studied in a co-ed environment. And I felt that I'm pretty comfortable with men, with boys, I suppose, because I had to learn otherwise. And I just did not understand inappropriate behavior, somebody being too friendly or just those things. It took me a while to understand. And in my first job, I was working at a textile company, and it was this was my third month. This was my very first job, and I didn't know discrimination was a thing till then, and gender discrimination at that. So the deal over there was that if you got an order for, so this was a denim factory, they made denim cloth and exported it. So if you got an order, an international order, you would get a certain percentage of commission on that order. And because I was part of the marketing team, and in my room were these very senior male members, and I was 21 at that time, and just so enthusiastic about life. Everything was just so possible, right? I can do anything I want. And in that very conservative, and I didn't even know if it was a conservative environment. I was just like, my head was just so full of, in the clouds.
Yeah.
Yes, so idealistic. And I remain pretty idealistic still. But anyways, I was like, so naive at that time. And they tried everything. I did not have internet access. They wouldn't give it to me on my computer. I wasn't given any lists of exporters or importers or international directories that I could start approaching people. मुझे क्या कहा जाता था कि तुम जाओ production floor पे. and you go and you look at the workers. So that is what they would send me to do. And I absolutely love that as well. I think I've always enjoyed working with the blue collar workers. I think it's just absolutely enriching. आप उनसे थोड़ी सी प्यार से बात करें, the response is amazing, and I that is something जो कि मैंने learned किया है from environments like that. But through my own efforts, because I was putting in a lot of work, extra work, I somehow within my first 3 months I got an order for a very large consignment from a Turkish importer.
Achha.
And everybody was stunned. We were like, "Isko kahan se mil gaya?" And so so I saw कि कैसे होता है कि जब भी LC खुलती है, so जो letter of credit का आपके पास आता है, क्योंकि that is the line of payment, B2B payment. So वो LC आ गई, खुल गई, and I took it to the bosses. There were two brothers who were the MDs of that place. I took it to them and I said कि okay, so मुझे इस पे कितना commission मिलेगा, so, and they were like, what do you mean? I said okay, so that's generally the norm here, right? So because I was just so excited, I'm going to get some more, so much money. Any money was like amazing money at that time. And they said कि नहीं आपको तो नहीं मिलेगा. मैंने कहा कि क्यों नहीं मिलेगा? मैंने कहा नहीं पहले ऑर्डर पे नहीं मिलता. मैंने कहा अच्छा पहले ऑर्डर पे नहीं मिलता. And वैसे भी they took the order, but then they rebuked me कि who said you, who told you to do this? And so I just did not understand it. I said, isn't this, I'm part of the marketing department, everybody's doing this, should I not be doing this? And do you want me to like close this and like cancel the order? nahi, aap kar de. And he took my my client and he gave it to one of the other male members of the team. He said, aap isko follow through kare, and they told me not to do this again. And I was devastated. I was like, have I done something wrong? I don't understand it. So this is my first taste of otherness, I guess, about discrimination. I believe it to be because of gender bias, because they couldn't understand that a woman could have done something like this, and that it could also be age bias, generational bias.
Yeah.
You can park it under a number of things. Because everybody, so my department, the marketing department, the average age was around, I think, 37, 38. I was 21 at the time. And so, and uske baad, then I got these, these doses of reality quite a lot. And I understood, okay, I have to stand my ground. And this is not me, it's them, because हमेशा से ये होता है कि or if something bad that's happened to you is perhaps your own calling, something that you did, but then you kind of like self-talk and you're like, no, excuse me, no, it's not me. And so these are the things that I've had to overcome as any woman. Apart from that, वो जो दूसरी चीजें होती हैं about invasion of your physical space, you go to a public place and people, inappropriate behaviors there, which no woman is safe from. Obviously that's always been there. And I think that we all learn just to take that in stride. And again, you feel as if your dupatta was not in the right place. Maybe you were, provocative, or aise nahi khada hona chahiye tha, waise nahi khada hona chahiye tha, and all of that kind of stuff. So I think we tend to self-blame, and then once you rationalize it, then you're like, no, even if I was, this is not called for, because I will never do that to another person, another man or woman. And so if somebody is compelled to invade someone's physical or emotional barriers, then they're the ones who are the invaders, and you're not the ones who are calling for it.
I was about to ask you, how do you overcome these biases, discrimination, these setbacks? And you did mention that, you have to internalize. And once you do that, you realize it's not you, it's them, it's their behavior. But it takes a lot of time. And I understand how at that time you would have felt if you would have been a mentor. तो कितना आसान होता आपके लिए वो चीज़ें, कोई आपको गाइड कर सकता, स्पेशली जो फैक्ट्री का आपने इंसिडेंट बताया है, आपके वर्क प्लेस पे जहाँ आप करंटली काम कर रही हैं, आपने ऐसा क्या, मतलब आई मीन डू यू हैव दीज वुमेन informal groups or clubs or women mentors who guide you, or not just women, men also, you know?
So leading up to my current workplace, इससे पहले, because I was working in the textile sector, I was always the first woman anywhere. I was always the first woman, and it showed the progressiveness of that particular organization to have hired the first female into anything. And once I was there, I was in any of my workplaces, I made sure that more women were hired. So, you know, I feel that in at least 2 to 3 organizations, I've pioneered, you know, women being hired in that day. Yeah. And that was, I always felt that was a huge burden, a huge burden, just to help other women navigate through everything that my experience was, you know, just even something as simple as access to a toilet. Because in one of my workplaces, in one of my workplaces, there was this isolated toilet which was locked. In case any woman ever wanted to come, you had to gain access to a key, use it, redeposit the key, and then come back. So everyone knew that how long a bathroom break you were on. And so you know, so that was kind of like one of the powers that we had to gain back. Bhai, there are women now, leave the bloody door open, you know, so that we can just go anytime that we want. Why does it have to be like an exclusive privilege? But alhamdulillah, I think I've come to a stage where I'm surrounded by amazing women. My current manager is just an absolute inspiration. I you know, I learn a lot from her struggles as a mother, as a long-term dedicated teacher, as taking care of a department which is not easy to take care of. And because I've been part of this institute for a long time, I've seen all the dynamics change. And it's the first time that a woman is in charge of this department. And I've seen the transformations here. I've been surrounded by other women heads of departments. Our you know, executive director, Sabina, you know, she's really understood what the founder president's vision was, and you know, try to remain as true to it as well. So I'm surrounded by women leaders. However, in my consulting experience, and this is something that I had pondered whether I should discuss in our meeting today. I feel that that not enough help is given from women to other women. And you know, so generally having a woman boss is considered to be like kind of like a big no-no. That, you know, that they're perhaps not the best leaders, that they can be temperamental, and women don't help other women. Yes. Which we see in the domestic sense, I guess, as roles change from mother to a mother-in-law, from a sister to a sister-in-law. And we see those dynamics becoming really, really strange. I think that is mapped into organizations as well. I have been fortunate to see very positive role models. However, I have known that stereotype as well about women being toxic bosses. I don't know if that should be parked generally under women.
Gender thing, huh?
Yeah, they're just part of that, you know, the toxicity culture, which is embedded within most managerial roles. But aap kyunki baat kar rahi hain about women clubs and other kinds of, you know, functions that are available for women. Yes, we don't have enough of them, and also perhaps we don't have enough investment in building women mentors and leaders, जो कि वो चीज आपको दे सके which you really need, you know, to learn from, to यानी कि enough leadership development के अंदर शायद investment नहीं है routed towards women leaders. You know, so
ये अक्सर लोग कहते हैं हमने डिस्कशन स्टार्ट कर दी, ये कर दिया, वो कर दिया, बट एक्चुअली करना क्या चाहिए ग्राउंड पे हमें, या क्या क्या कोई माइंडसेट कल्टिवेट करना चाहिए या उस पे, बिकॉज माइंडसेट्स यूजुअली टेक टाइम, सो व्हाट कैन बी डन अबाउट इट? Because I'll tell you why I'm asking this, because my this question leads to another one, and which talks about making these. You talked about violence, you talked about discrimination, harassment. So my next question leads to that. In organizations, do females have the access to complain about what they have gone through, what difficulties they are going through? So what should be done at ground level to have these informal clubs, to have these investment in women leaderships, which you just spoke about?
So so women clubs or these think tanks where women build
that's
other
better
women,
word.
perhaps sounds really good on paper, but for it not to seem as if it's another hens club, it's not just another fraternity where women just go on about their own stuff. I think there's a lot to overcome. There's a lot of baggage there to overcome, and when women get together, all they talk about is fashion and clothes and stuff. I think if yes, women have to fight more to regain that space that that comes easier to men, and perhaps उसके ऐसे think tanks से जो if they're outcome focused, that we're getting together, this is a committee that is being formed to solve a particular problem, to build solutions, to have that kind of an operational or strategic approach, यानी कि objective led think tanks हो, we're grouping around a common area, either a research area or something that we functionally want to fix, and then उससे फिर आप white papers generate कर रहे हो, आप उससे action plans generate कर रहे हो, और आप उसको organizations के अंदर disseminate कर रहे हो कि okay, these are the solutions that we have come up with, these are the innovations that we've come up with. So perhaps that is if you're more objective based, then just coming together to create a platform where women are comfortable and talking and open up. I think we need to, especially in these times, we need to be business focused. We need to be output focused as to what value are we bringing, because हमारी value ही हर वक्त question हो रही होती है. And so I mean, let's just roll up our sleeves and get to it and show them, all right, this is the value, this is what we're doing, these are our solutions, this is the cost around it, this is the impact, let's do it.
Yeah, okay, that's easier said than done, Juveria.
Oh, of course. It's a daily struggle. It's a daily struggle. I mean, we make sheets upon sheets and we make solutions upon solutions, and then you have to go and sell all of these ideas, which is just so common sense. And a lot of people just back away from it. Okay, ठीक है, हमने तो अपना काम कर दिया, अब whatever. But I think that kind of persistence is needed.
Juveria, what is the idea of a dignified workplace to you?
Where things are effortless, where you don't have to think twice about about whether you're all right, whether you're safe, whether your access has to go through someone who might be a deterrent in your way. Effortless is the thing that comes to my mind for men and women. I think I was having this conversation with somebody about childcare facilities, about daycares, and how much peace of mind that would bring to so the conversation was ke agar aapne women enablement karni hai, if you want to encourage women to work, to then aapko itni sari cheezein unke liye karni padti hain. आपको उनको पिक एंड ड्रॉप देना पड़ता है, उनको चाइल्ड केयर देनी पड़ती है, उनके ऊपर फैमिली केयर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज बहुत ज्यादा होती हैं, तो अगर उनको कभी टाइम ऑफ लेना पड़ता है माँ बाप को तो अस्पताल ले जाने के लिए या जो भी जिम्मेदारियां होती है, so वो सारी की सारी औरतों के ऊपर ही आ रही होती है, because आदमियों को तो कोई जिम्मेदारियां नहीं होती. लेकिन ये कि ठीक है, सही है, and women happily juggle all of these responsibilities as long as you create that ecosystem for them. And my argument to that was that isn't it time that we also made the men responsible for childcare responsibilities as well? That why is a daycare only labeled for women, where this facility is available for men as well? And I think that the recent emphasis on paternal leaves as well. I think that's a fantastic move, because men need to connect with a newborn as well. वो जो उसका time होता है, वो जो pheromones होते हैं, वो जो एक physical contact होता है, that's such a precious time. And I think ye wali conversations, if we take them away from, you know, from women only, and make people realize that this is for everyone to use, तो then फिर वो otherness जो है उसके अंदर से कम होगी. And I think that is what I meant when I said effortless, that things just should make, you know, they're common sense things, and instead of creating barriers around them, just ask people, what do you need? So if you need a quiet room, all right, here's a quiet room. You know, if you get overwhelmed, and then again, this is not just for women. Here's a quiet room for men as well. My sister-in-law works at an education facility, and so they were very young teachers, kindergarten, nursery ki jo teachers hain. And so there were these 5 young mothers who stood up, teachers who had just become mothers, and they said, listen, we need a lactation room. So they didn't have their babies with them, but they said, we need to pump, right? And it's just painful, and I need to do this during a particular time so that I can provide this for my baby. And somebody's going to come from home and take this bottle, but I need a lactation facility. I need a space where I can sit and use my breast pump. And so my sister-in-law is, like I said, she's a school physician, and so she said the only place that my sister-in-law could offer was the back of a clinic, which was not partitioned. So there was these women जो बहुत ज़्यादा छुप छुपा के अजीब सी situation के अंदर बैठ के pump कर रही थी, and kids would be coming in and out of clinic. So yeah, you know, so it's just strange to see a teacher over there in this really compromising situation. Yeah. So, and it was unbelievable, because this school is run by women, a very long-term situation, and it was so hard to convince them that there should be this cordoned off area, which can be used as a lactation room, it can be used as a quiet place, it can be used as a meditation place, and for anybody. So you just need to book it, right? So just एक room आप मुख्तस कर दें and have it as a multi-purpose thing. You don't have to label it, and anybody who just needs a timeout can perhaps go over there, just perhaps meditate in peace, think about something. You can make it into a creative space as well. Somebody, you know, go in there. So you can have these common sense things in place.
But do you think, are they really common even among females also? Like you're talking about, this is a women-led, you know, organization, and there are many women working over there. So do you think it's a common thing? Females feel that, you know, that these are common things, these are common norms, and let's talk about it, let's ask for it. Similarly, let's go, you know, the kind of issues they go through, inappropriate advances, gestures. Are they aware that, you know, it's their right to talk about it, and these mechanisms which help to prevent such incidents, are they within their reach? Unki dastaras mein hai ye cheezein?
So what I'm saying is that they're common sense, but they're definitely not common. And for these young millennials to bring up this issue with having 40 years history of women giving birth and soldiering on, हमें तो कभी जरूरत नहीं पड़ी इसकी, हमने तो बच्चे पाले हैं, हमें ये नए लोगों को तो पता नहीं, I mean, all of that, and then the technology is just so bad, and all of that stuff, you know, there's such a lot of baggage that comes to it. It's just that I guess women are so operational and functional in nature कि ये चीज करनी है, that a lot of times they don't really think कि अच्छा किसी भी चीज के multiple solutions भी हो सकते हैं. And I think it's amazing that women young women especially are more aware, and they're challenging the norms. They're calling out things that just don't work. There's more emphasis on mental health than ever before, which is amazing because people are now starting to, understand that yes, it is necessary. वरना, ये कह के dismiss कर देना कि क्या हमारे ज़माने में क्या मुश्किलात नहीं होती थी, हमने तो कर लिया. लेकिन you didn't have to do it alone at that time, and nobody deserves to be alone at this time either. And I think it's not easy to voice these so quote unquote modern ideas, which it's not really modern. They're just like I said, common sense. But yeah, to find space for them within women is hard enough, let alone convincing men for it.
Yeah, I agree to that. Like I gave you the example when we both had that, discussion. So maybe I was not feeling it, and you, being the, observing me from the other side, you felt that, this she needs to be told about it. So maybe a lactating mother might not feel the urge, but the person who's seeing outside, and when if you internalize that, you realize कि हाँ भाई हमें इनके लिए बोलना चाहिए, कल हमारे साथ भी ये situation हो सकती है. Excuse me, Juveria. Juveria, you also have, you're somebody who talk about diversity inclusion. You have conducted trainings also. तो आजकल जो इतना diversity और inclusion का जो एक craze भी है और एक हम पे pressure भी अब इदारों पर आ गया है to increase their, to diversify their workforce or make, workforce more friendly towards females. इस पे थोड़ा बताइए और इस पे भी बताइए. I would ask you to do it briefly also, because I know I've asked a lot of questions from you. Are females ready for it? I mean, sometimes हमारे पास committees होती हैं और उसमें rules होते हैं कि जी एक खातून होगी, तो क्या वो खातून actually तैयार होती है, वो merit पे होती है, और या just tell me about this diversity inclusion. This is a good thing. There's emphasis. There's nothing wrong about it. Are women ready? How do you take this D&I? And your take.
So one thing, just let me put it out there, and then I'll come back to your question. I think diversity and inclusion की conversation को gender specific करके हम बहुत ज़ाती कर देते हैं, and I think D&I की सारी का जो पूरा conversation है, that remains very limited, and that to gender, and that to women and women. And we take away the cultural aspects, the disability aspects, the generational aspects, all of those which we are surrounded by.
Yes.
And that is perhaps a conversation for a later time. Gender remains as much an importance and as a myth as it always was. अभी recently मेरी किसी से बात हो रही थी, and they were saying कि हमने अपना quota increase कर दिया है from 10% to 20%, and I was teaching a D&I class in the previous semester, and मैंने उनसे कहा कि अच्छा ठीक है, let's think about some really inclusive KPIs, right? So हम अगर बिल्कुल pure inclusion के ऊपर काम करते हैं ताकि ऐसे KPIs जो कि you can take to your manager and say listen, let's do this. And every single person in that classroom, I had about 21 people in there, said, increase the number of women by X%. I said, that's such a lazy KPI. Come on. What is the capability here? Why are you only focusing on number? And is that going to solve anything for you? How about, looking at more inclusive KPIs? And then when I pushed them, and we came up with some really, more interesting ones, especially around creating programs of re-entry for women. कि अगर career breaks लिए हैं, which is so commonplace for women, career breaks होते हैं. अभी recently कोई मजाक कर रहा था कि आपकी क्लास के अंदर तो सारी लड़कियां होती हैं HR के लेक्चर्स के अंदर, and इक्का दुक्का लड़के होते हैं. तो HR तो होती ही लड़कियों की फील्ड है, HR बस लड़की विमेन की फील्ड है. मैंने कहा कि आप मुझे गिनती करवा दें कितनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के अंदर GM HR विमेन है या डायरेक्टर HR विमेन है और CHRO विमेन है. आपको विमेन नजर आती हैं मैक्सिमम असिस्टेंट मैनेजर के लेवल तक, और उसके बाद मार्केटिंग से, बिजनेस से, ऑपरेशन से, आईटी से मूव कर दिया जाता है, लोगों को मल्टीपल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी उनकी जॉब इनलार्जमेंट करके, और एचआर उनको थमा दिया जाता है। तो आपको टॉप पे जो है वो बहुत ही कम ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में डेडिकेटेड एचआर प्रोफेशनल्स बनेंगे, बट ज्यादातर शेयर्ड वो हो जाती हैं। सो देयर इज ए सीलिंग that is definitely in there, and so a better KPI was number of programs, number of initiatives launched for re-entry women, career restarts, and we looked at examples from K Electric and PTCL and JS Bank and many other organizations that are doing something which is more beneficial to encourage women on their own terms. So अगर वो full time नहीं कर सकती तो फिर then part time, deferred time, उस तरह से करके re-entry back into the workforce. ये जो quotas वाली चीजें हैं, just doing it for the sake of doing it is doing a lot of harm, and it's just not working out. Right approach.
जी बिल्कुल सही है। जुवेरिया, ये जो डाइवर्सिटी और इंक्लूजन की कॉन्वर्जेशन स्टार्ट हुई है, क्या इसने एक तरह से वुमेन एट होम जो है उन पे कहीं ना कहीं उनको प्रेशराइज किया है, ओवरबर्डन किया है टू एक्चुअली come out of their homes and work in organization? Somewhat क्या उन्होंने उनका perception जो है उसको थोड़ा सा डिस्टर्ब किया है या less empowering किया है, that they feel until unless they are in the workforce, they're working, they are not empowered or they are not equally part of the society, productive society. Do you feel that?
So I think a significant pressure on that is the economic conditions. I think families feel that women need to participate in having a second income. So वो वाले pressures तो हैं ही, but so जो हमारे influential women groups हैं, वो definitely ये otherism create करते हैं that if you're a working woman then you are better, and somebody who's a stay-at-home mother who's bringing up the next generation is somehow inferior. And this used to be vice versa. So a woman was more respectable if she was, and anybody who went out was fast. So I think वो वाला the dynamic sources turn around तो हुए हैं, especially urban centers के अंदर, certainly, absolutely. That is there, and so मैं अपने इर्द गिर्द भी देखती हूँ कि older mothers chastising younger mothers के हमने तो इन्हीं सिचुएशन के अंदर तेरे बच्चे पाल लिए थे और तुम लोगों से तो ये भी नहीं होता, और all of that stuff. So obviously that is there, and unfortunately, like I said, women are not always like gentle towards other women. But I think there is a silver lining in there with technology and enablement of online businesses, and a lot of women are able to not compromise on their home responsibilities while making themselves economically viable and productive as well. So I think there's more space for women to do what they want to do, as long as they're convinced of it, and as long as they feel confident to it. Going back to the confidence thing.
Juveria, very briefly, who is an empowered woman to you? What's the image of an empowered?
Somebody who can make her decisions. Somebody who can make decisions for themselves.
Okay.
And not having to give explanations, and so this is what I want to do, and have absolute clarity about it.
Great. ये बताइए, again I will ask you, I think we discussed in detail in the start, but again very briefly, what is empowerment to you? Generally, I'm talking about generally.
So empowerment is again you feeling control over the decisions that you make, feeling comfortable, or feeling that you have the power to do what you want to do. Now that is like a very generic statement, I understand, but I think it goes back to the home as well. If I want to not eat right now, I will say I don't want to eat right now, and that I don't seem antisocial, as if I'm shunning away the family. Just me being able to do what what I want to do, without having to explain myself, knowing that I am confident in whatever it is that I'm choosing. I think that is the epitome of empowerment.
How can we strengthen women of our times? Your message to the females out there, stay at home mothers, working mothers, girls who have been married, they have started their career, left it in the middle, and children are going away, or females who feel stuck in their lives generally. What is your message to them?
I would go back to what I started with, which is having confidence in themselves, knowing that they're worthy. And I think आपने जो मुझे जिस existential crisis में डाला था कि okay, what is it that I am? What is it that I'm good at? What is it that I'm here for? Just asking those questions, and there are answers. There are very solid answers to that. Just knowing yourself, knowing and understanding what you're bringing to the table, and then building a case around it, building, having confidence around that.
Thank you so much, Juveria. It was a pleasure talking to you. I know I took a lot of your time. I hope I have not engulfed your lunch break. Sorry about that.
No.
It was so much fun. Thank you so much, Juveria, for being here.
Thank you very much, Bisma. I told you earlier, but I was quite unsure whether I'm the right person for this, but I've thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Thank you.